Yes, friends, I'm Abdul Basit and you're watching Kaleidoscope. Today, I'm very lucky that with me on my show, we have Ambassador Masood Khalid, who has been one of our distinguished, outstanding diplomats. He has served around the world, but he has been our ambassador to South Korea, then our High Commissioner to Malaysia, and then from 2013 onwards, he has served as our ambassador to China. And he has the honor of being the longest serving Pakistan ambassador to China from 2013 to 2019. And he was also given, I think so, the Global Ambassadors Award, I think in 2018 or 17. Sir, thank you very much for joining me on Kaleidoscope. I'm indeed grateful.
Thank you very much. Good morning and assalamu alaikum to our viewers.
Thank you very much, sir. So my first question would be, because let's start with China. Is Pakistan-China relationship sui generis? And if it is nothing, if there is nothing unique between our two countries, it is driven by usual interstate mutual relationship. But then, I mean, how do you think it is a unique relationship, or it is as we have relations with other states driven by mutual interests?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a very good question, because most of the people do not fully understand or comprehend the importance of this relationship as well as the uniqueness of this relationship. You know, this relationship has a rich history of almost 70 years. And of course, two countries have passed through different, phases in this relationship. We have been influenced by the Cold War rivalries, and post-Cold War world order, and the developments in our own region, which have caused great impact on this relationship. But the most important thing in this relationship and the redeeming feature is, Ambassador Basit, that despite vicissitudes, despite ups and downs, despite domestic changes and international changes, this relationship has maintained a steady trajectory. In fact, if you closely analyze, this relationship, one would find that the graph of this relationship has constantly gone up. So, and the reason for that is that we have been able to develop that affinity. Although I think you meant in your question that we do not have, any compatibility in terms of ideology or culture or religion. That's true. But many countries have, developed their interstate relationship irrespective of, cultural differences and divergences. So this is not something unique to Pakistan-China relations. But what has happened is that over the years, our leaders, our political parties, our people have invested in this relationship. And most importantly, the leadership in Pakistan, and changes in Pakistan have been many and so frequent, very frequent, compared to China, where a single party has ruled China for the last 70 years and, delivered whatever they've been able to deliver. My point is that the leadership in both countries have realized that this relationship serves their mutual interest somehow. So on the basis of that mutuality of interest, they have developed this trust and respect. And most importantly, they have adhered to the principle of non-interference in their internal affairs. So, a very fine balance has been evolved, has been established in this relationship, which thrives this relationship, which thrives this friendship. And I would say that in the past, this relationship was primarily, security and military cooperation driven. But since CPEC was introduced or CPEC was launched, we have this huge economic dimension in addition, because we had intergovernmental mechanisms to promote. We have a joint commission, ministerial commission between Pakistan and China for promoting technical and economic cooperation, but it became somewhat dormant. So I think CPEC give that push, give that nudge, that, okay, we have a very good strategic partnership, we have good political and diplomatic relationship, but our economic dimension of this relationship was just missing. So CPEC not only give a nudge, but what happened was that you must have noticed that 2 years ago, I think it was last year, that we also revived a joint commission that also met. So I think the most important thing is the mutual trust which has characterized this relationship. And of course, our mutual interest in the region. We give each other diplomatic and strategic space.
And then there is obviously national consensus in Pakistan. All political parties, establishment, all of us do agree on this relationship, that it is very vital and important for Pakistan. So when Pakistan government says that Pakistan will always be neutral, that does not necessarily include China in that equation. When we talk about neutrality, that does not mean that we would not take sides between US and China. If we talk about neutrality, that is perhaps mostly in the context of the Western countries and the rest, not necessarily China. Am I right to draw this inference from your talk, sir?
I think, frankly speaking, there is no neutrality in international politics these days, and I think for a country like Pakistan, we can say that we will try to follow an independent foreign policy rather than neutral foreign policy. There is, non-aligned bloc is no longer there. So I think, but we have to, of course, determine our relationship with any country in the context of its importance and the mutuality of interest. Now, if you look at China, our relationship with China is altogether different than our relationship with some of the major powers, with some of the countries, because there is a history, there is a history of mutual support to each other, and the fact that, in tangible terms, which relationship is more important. So my point is that we don't want to be caught in a crossfire between, for example, between US-China rivalry. We want good relationship with both, and China does not, does not oppose or is against Pakistan developing good, friendly, cordial, good relationship with the United States. We have a history of our relationship with the United States. So, but it has had its ups and downs. Compared to a trajectory which has been, which has sustained over the years, which has, in fact, got strong over the years. So that comparison, I think, is difficult to make in that sense.
Sir, you know that China is currently under enormous pressure on the Ukrainian crisis, and the US is asking China to first condemn, if it can't condemn the Russian operation in Ukraine, at least not help Russia to circumvent the Western military and economic sanctions on Russia. So, and then we all know that the US has been openly saying that it is China which is the biggest threat, even one notch up international terrorism. So how you, since you have worked in China, you know China very, very well, how do you look at China? Would it, at the end of the day, would be standing with Russia on the Ukrainian crisis, or you think, given its economic interests vis-a-vis the rest of the world, particularly with the US, it will revisit its present position and perhaps, be trying to or align with the West, or it will continue with its present sort of neutral stand? How you look at the Chinese position on the Ukrainian crisis?
I think it's a very difficult balancing act for China to perform. And the reason is that, of course, this new sort of partnership which has evolved between China and Russia is very important, because if you see the trends of past few years, you will find, and I think you will agree with me, that Russia and China have tried to forge a close relationship, a strategic partnership, in order to sort of, dilute or weaken the US influence wherever it is possible in different theaters, in Asia Pacific, in our own region in Central Asia, and the Middle East. So it's kind of a counter, because both countries have been under tremendous pressure from the United States. Now, President Putin visited Beijing during the Winter Olympics. And an unprecedented 6,000 words, I think, joint statement was issued, the core of which was that there is nothing which cannot be achieved or which cannot be done in terms of relationship between Russia and China. So it was a very categoric sort of statement that both countries will continue to develop this partnership, which they find it's in their interest. Now, what happened? But this was pre-Ukraine thing. And soon thereafter, President Putin decides to attack. So China was upset. And yesterday, Chinese ambassador in Washington wrote an op-ed in Washington Post, and he said that China did not have any prior information of this attack. Now, China has very good relations with both Russia and Ukraine. So China has, in the Security Council also, you would see that China abstained, and China affirmed its support to the territorial integrity of states, including Ukraine. Yesterday, Foreign Minister Wang Yi reaffirmed this categorically, and their spokesman also, that we support the territorial integrity of Ukraine. We want dialogue. We want this issue to be resolved peacefully. So China has to balance, its relations with Russia, Ukraine, and on the other hand, with the United States as well as the European Union. Because what has happened is that this conflict has brought United States and Europe closer to each other, because US was losing ground in Europe, in the past few years. But now this has, you see a great sense of unity. I mean, you see Germany, which has increased. You have been ambassador to Germany, and Germany has taken an unprecedented, decision to increase their defense spending to 2% of GDP, and they are supplying arms and equipment to Ukraine. But my point is that China will try, in my view, to sort of persuade Russia to come to the negotiating table. And the talks are already going on between Russia and Ukraine. And I think, my personal opinion is that Putin has miscalculated. There's, I have never served in Russia. You have been in Moscow, I know. But so I don't know their mindset. But I think this sort of great empire, Russian empire, that syndrome still lurks in their mind. And Russia became very weak after 1991. And then the NATO made encroachments, in their periphery. So they were upset. I mean, Russia in I think 2006 or something, I don't exactly remember, but Russia even offered to join NATO. Yes, and look at the political, world order. If Russia was part of NATO today, it would have been totally different, different ball game.
But talking about the mindsets, do you think, and you understand the Chinese mindset, is there any possibility that China would be taking advantage of the current situation and reunify Taiwan, or do you think they can live with the present or with the status quo for now, and they would deal with the Taiwan issue in their own way? Is there any, because some analysts do fear that China may, taking advantage of the present situation, may kind of militarily reunify Taiwan with the mainland. How you look at it?
No, I will first conclude my thought on your last question.
Okay.
And I think because there is an expectation from China to play some kind of role in this conflict. They have good relationship with Russia. They have good relationship with Ukraine, and they are facing mounting pressure. I mean, they are facing pressure on before this Ukraine conflict. They were under tremendous pressure from the United States, in terms of that containment strategy. So my point is that China may try to sort of come up with some kind of formula, maybe with some other partners or on a standalone basis, to sort of, to put pressure on Ukraine, because pressure on Putin to start a dialogue. And if certain conditions are met by Zelensky, then I think they can get into the dialogue mode and the tensions will reduce. Now, coming to Taiwan,
and Zelensky also, I think, said 2 days back that they can reconsider their position on NATO. So if
yes,
please, sir, go ahead.
I think he's more interested in EU now, and after getting a thrashing at the hands of Russians, now I think he has given up that idea of NATO. But can you imagine that a couple of years ago, he did a very major air exercise in Ukraine, inviting NATO countries. So there have been a lot of provocation, for Russians. Anyway, coming to the Taiwan issue, now China is very sensitive on these territorial issues. You see this standoff between India and China, border standoff. Taiwan is their red herring. And there have been at least 3 joint communiques between China and the United States, which clearly state that Taiwan is part of China. Now, from the Trump administration and now Biden administration, there are different vibes. China is not going to compromise, but I don't think China will be very selective as far as timing is concerned. I don't think China is going to take advantage of this situation, present situation in Ukraine, to launch any kind of adventure, in the Taiwan Strait. But it will have a belligerent posture. It will continue to bolster. It has increases defense spending, defense budget. So that thing will continue. But it wants to basically protect its periphery, its flanks, and its influence, whatever it is gaining in terms of economic and political influence in different theaters of the world.
So my final question to you is that the West is worried that perhaps China is gradually weaning away from the rule-based international system. And at some point in time, China will challenge the present or the existing international legal system, or whatever you call it. But China, on the other hand, has been reiterating that it is willing to work with the world, with the Western world, and it respects from UN Charter to Universal Declaration of Human Rights and whatnot. But we are also seeing that as China is growing economically, it has also, for example, it has come up with an own system in parallel to SWIFT. I think it is called Cross-Border International Payment System. So China is gradually has come up with its own infrastructure development bank as well. And it is gradually, as its clout is rising, increasing around the world, it seems inevitable that China would be at some stage calling the shots around the world. So how do you feel the same way that China is just biding time and eventually it will challenge the existing international system which was established post World War II?
I think Chinese are very pragmatic. Chinese leaders say that China wants to become a superpower at its own pace. and in accordance with its own priorities. And the most important priority for them is not to squander the gains which they have made in the last 40, 50 years. And they want to become the most, developed, prosperous society, etc. by 2049. So that is the national goal which they're trying to achieve. And they would like to avoid conflicts and confrontation during this phase, very important phase. And there'll be some changes also, domestic, political changes also this year. So my point is that China does not want to, disturb the apple cart, because China has benefited from globalization. China has benefited from this world order. Before becoming the member of WTO, China was isolated, but China's exports, China's manufacturing capacity increased exponentially after, and China's economy is greatly interdependent on the American economy and the European economies now, and ASEAN economies. ASEAN is their largest trading partner now, I think, and USA is number 3, I think now. My point is that China is closely integrated in this economic architecture which exists today. China does not want to disturb that arrangement. On the other hand, if you look at what China is saying, is that we want a more equitable international order, political order, as well as financial architecture, because China has no say, for example, in IFIs, in World Bank and IMF, their voting rights are quite, less. Similarly, China is now the second largest contributor to the UN budget, and I think number 2 or number 3 in peacekeeping operations. So China says, but and we are not given that sort of legitimacy or that say, that hearing in international system. So we are expanding our own institutions, own systems. We are developing our own banks, and basically, Chinese foreign policy is an extension of their geo-economic interest. In what we say, Pakistan is now focusing a lot. There's the new narrative of geoeconomics, which makes sense to me, because geoeconomics driving geopolitics, they are inseparable, separable. They cannot be delinked, especially in our context, in our volatile geopolitical environment, vis-a-vis India and other factors. So, but geoeconomics driving Chinese foreign policy, geopolitics. So they are using their economic and financial muscle to expand their political and economic footprint. And they are pretty successful, especially in Asia, Africa, in European countries. They have practically summit-level arrangements with all the continents of the world. Every year, at the summit level, Chinese leaders meet their counterparts in Africa, Latin America, Central Asia, in Central Europe, this and that. So, and with the EU. So my point is that China is now big. China will not do anything which will sort of disturb its own development trajectory. And China knows that United States is still, and they acknowledge there's, it is a superpower, it's technologically ahead, this and that, militarily ahead. But China is working at its own pace and very intelligently. They do not expose themselves too much. This is also very important. They keep it, under the wraps. And they also tell us, for God's sake, talk less and do more. But we are a different sort of breed. We don't listen to these. So my point is that Chinese are moving slowly and steadily to expand their influence. And if they succeed, 2049 is, way down the line. But if they do succeed, it will create a new, of course, international order. But before that, there are so many developments taking place. Nobody anticipated this Ukraine thing, 2 months ago. Now it is disturbing the entire international order. You will see new permutations, new alliances, new partnerships. We may be asked also, to choose sides, but we will have independent foreign policy, not neutral foreign policy.
Thank you very, very much, sir. What a pleasure. And I personally found your observations very, very insightful and gained a lot. And hopefully we will continue giving us time to benefit from your wisdom, from your experience. Once again, thank you very much. And as you rightly pointed out, there is so much for Pakistan to learn from our Chinese friends in terms of conducting ourselves in the international arena. So thank you very much, sir, once again, and wish you all the best. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. And my last complaint is, my crib is that this is a relationship which has endured for last 70 years. But unfortunately, we have not learned as much from China as we should have. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
It's spot on, sir. Thank you very much, and take care, sir. Allah Hafiz.